people or technology? People are going to be replaced by technology. Should we choose people or should we choose technology? And I say I live in the and. People and technology can coexist together. The things that can be done by technology, we let technology do it in order to augment work.
Welcome to Season 10 of CX in the Wild. 10 seasons of conversations with the visionaries who are reshaping the world, one experience at a time. This season, we go further into the minds of those who challenge the status quo and reimagine what's possible. And now, the adventure continues.
Welcome back to CX in the Wild, the first episode here live in Las Vegas at the Customer Connect Expo. This is the fourth year we've been here, second year podcasting live. It is so interesting because this used to be called Customer Contact Center Expo, but now it's Customer Connect. Keeping in mind that the producers of this show come from 8,000 or 9,000 miles away to produce this show, to build the community, and even this year, they were one of the only events to personally call everyone. With those resources, the frontline agents participating in building this community. So it's an honor to be here. And it's an honor to be here with my first guest for the show. And I always like to start the show with just asking you, if you wouldn't mind telling the audience who you are and what's keeping you busy these days.
What's keeping me busy? So my name is Kalifa Oliver. I'm an executive advisor and I'm an experience coach. I'm very focused on employee experience. What's been keeping me busy and up at night these days? It's looking at how technology and people work together. It's really trying to understand how emerging technology and the human and people-centered experience can be designed strategically using data-driven approaches, but looking at people-centered design in order to make work better for everybody. So that's what I've been focused on, speaking on it, developing it, designing it.
Now, if you're speaking on it, because certainly I think that topic is a big topic these days, and everybody has a hot take on it. But if you're out here talking about it, what is this? What's your secret sauce? What is this insight that you have that is so compelling that people need to see you on stage?
So the biggest thing, I'll answer that two ways. So I'm a cheat a little bit, right? So I'll answer that two ways. One, I work in the and. I think the conversation right now has been about people or technology. People are going to be replaced by technology. Should we choose people or should we choose technology? And I say I live in the and. The and exists. People and technology can coexist together. Technology should help with efficiencies and help bridge gaps so that people can do their jobs better and focus on the things like innovation instead of busy work, right? The things that can be done by technology, we let technology do it in order to augment work. So that's the first thing. The second thing, take I should say, that I have is that people don't need to fear technology. I think there's a lot of fear of what technology is and what technology can do, right? And it's because it's proposed so much as a black box. So I joke that the black box is so that they can charge more.
That's so true.
As long as you don't know what it is and you're afraid of it, as long as I create a problem, I can charge you anything I want to solve it, you know? And so it's really trying to democratize it and make it accessible and let people understand that these things can exist in the same room and make the business money.
Yes. The performance part of it is so valuable, but I can see immediately why people want you to speak on the subject. There is an authenticity about what you're saying. There are a lot of people monetizing the unknown about technology, and it's not okay.
Right.
It makes it harder for adoption.
Fair.
And it makes it harder for that value that you're talking about to come through.
Because if I pay, let's say pay $1 million for a new and emerging technology, let's say AI because it's all the rage right now, some sort of AI technology, but everybody fails it, nobody understands how to use it, it won't get implemented properly. it doesn't get implemented properly, we say that this failed. Your $1 million investment failed. But what really happened is you did not teach. You did not open the door. You did not show how this can work with you. You did not bring people to the table before, and that's what I think happens too often.
It's very true that education is so powerful, but also transparency.
Yes.
And I think I think are talking a little bit about transparency. I have a friend who says honesty is when you tell me the truth about questions I ask you. Transparency is when you tell me the truth about things I don't ask you.
Yes.
And that doesn't happen a lot. And not because maybe people don't want to, but to be real, on some of these AI technologies, I don't even think that people who made it know anymore. And that's okay.
They don't know.
But I think there is a lot of transparency that needs to happen in our industry. People are monetizing the blind spots, and I think some people think they get it when they don't.
They don't. They don't. There's so many leaders that I interact with, coach, advise, that when it really gets down to when I break it down, it turns out they just didn't understand the technology to begin with, right? And one thing about executives, I love them, right? But many of them, they don't know what they don't know, and they won't admit to what they don't know, because we've kind of put them in a situation where that's a weakness. Some of the best leaders I've worked with are the times I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't
yes.
know what you're talking. Tell it to me like I'm a child. And that's what I always tell people when it comes to technology, when it comes to data, when it comes to statistics, toddlerify it. The way I would talk to my kids, right? My youngest is now 5, and I learned that when you interact with a toddler, when you interact with a small child, the one thing they will do is they will why you to death until they understand. And when they understand, after making such a big fuss, they go, oh, okay.
Yes.
They move on. Executives won't ask that many whys. So you have to think ahead.
Let's unpack that. I hear your accent. Where's your accent from?
Trinidad and Tobago and Caribbean.
Okay. In the idea of helping people learn, I'll just say this. One thing I learned in my social media posts, when I was using ChatGPT, when I started saying, could you write this at an 8th grade reading level? It got people engaged so much better. So there's some truth to that. One of the things I also see about what you're saying from a global perspective is I've come to understand that customer experience performs worse in Western cultures and Western governments, because Western philosophy, it has a fear factor.
Yes.
That's part of its doctrine. And when you leave the United States or Western corporate anxiety, punishments, you do get to experience other countries who failure is replaced with learning. And so they're not punished or reprimanded for a unmet expectation. They're met with additional resources to solve the unmet expectation. And it's just interesting how different cultures respond to it. But you also have internal cultures, as you're saying, educating people, bringing them along. And can I just ask you, just keep it real, or don't. You can just say pass. All this talk about AI and magic technology, executives, business people, startups, founders, I don't think I've ever seen a single AI or technology founder. Now, this doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I've not ever seen one of the most recent ones who are like talking about this. I don't think I've seen any of them with content where they go into a call center or sit with an agent or do the agent's job. And what's fascinating about that is not just the commentary on the truth, how do they think all this magic
How
technology
it
is
works.
going to go into the actual system of humans?
Right, right. I heard a quote recently that I use all the time now. It's the idea that right now, AI is the solution that is constantly searching for a problem. When it comes to AI, we go backwards all the time. We say, oh, AI, we're going to buy this new tool. But we have not figured out yet what we're trying to solve with this tool. Do you need it? Do you need it? If you need to do foundational work, your issue is not AI. If you haven't done a job analysis to understand the job, you don't need AI yet. If you can't write a good job description when you're trying to hire, how do you expect AI to do it? Who's training that model, right? In so much cases, AI is statistics in a picture frame that's very pretty. And then you buy it, and you know what you do? You put it up in your basement, you put it up in your attic because you can't use it.
No.
You can't use it.
I find it interesting how many people I see get up on stage or even talk about it in passing. They talk about how AI is going to replace call center agents. And what I think is, have you ever done a call center agent job? You don't have AI can't handle it.
But we have
Like,
evidence of this. This happened with Klarna
tell me about it.
recently. So the CEO of Klarna made an announcement. He was going to replace a whole bunch of people in these centers with AI. They're like, AI can do the job. He has recently come back out and said, okay, we're going to back off of AI because as it turns out, your customers need context, right? You have implemented the system without the infrastructure and the learning yet. You can't just go in and put AI. It's not a magic pill. It's not. I tell people all the time, I work with data all day long. I am not a wizard. I don't make wizard money.
Yes, yes, it's not an answer. But I think what I'm also reaching for is, if one of these people had ever sat in a call center and would just for an hour, they would realize that the agent jumps between multiple applications across multiple conversations at once. Now, yes, maybe they're all getting recorded in the back end, but the jumping from application to application, in and out of authentications to know your customer and to fulfill that job, that AI doesn't just float on top as a
No,
magic halo of
no,
AI.
no,
And
no.
so I think that I think I think that there's a real missing education piece. That's what I was reaching for, education
And
for leaders
design, to your
and
point,
design.
and design, because you're designing to theory, and you're designing to a theoretical problem. So, for example, you might think that you're solving a problem because every time you call a call center, you have an experience. But there's somebody on the other end of the experience, and you're designing a tool for them. But you haven't talked to them. You don't know what's going on with that. So you're designing for a theory. And if that theory doesn't hold, because it's easy to sell, right? Because everybody's been a customer, like, oh, that makes sense, until you go in the back. And there's too many people designing tools theoretically. When all you really need to do is spend some time with people who've been there. Even in my job, I go where the work happens because it helps me understand it. The rule I tell people in every one of my talks is this: when you work with data, be it basic statistics, AI, natural language processing, LLMs, the most important skill you need is humility. That is your most important skill. Assume you do not know anything. In the room you go into, you just know maybe the most about data, but assume you don't know. I think if more people went in with that humility first in design stages, we'd get better tools.
You know, you make me think of this metaphor. It's almost like AI is the most comprehensive dictionary ever. And people are like, you know what? I read this textbook on physics, and there's so much great stuff. We can go to the moon, we can do all this stuff. All we need to do is get us one of those dictionaries.
Think about Google.
Right.
How many times do we have to tell people, go Google it?
Yeah.
You have all of this in front of you. Google it. Why do I got to tell you to go Google it?
Yeah. And so I'll say this other thing, which is on this whole idea of understanding the role of AI, the data. There's a lot of data sovereignty issues happening now.
Yes.
We see that in the news, but on the topic of AI in the call centers, I'll tell you what I'm doing, just sharing with you.
Yeah.
Last year, I hit an all-time high performance mark for one of my collaborations in the industry. Financial performance, unheard of metric. And I did it with AI. And you know what I did? Because I have a call center myself in Africa, I have agents. Because I didn't want to be one of these guys who talks about this theory.
Right.
I'm like, unless I know.
Right.
So I have and what I did, because I'm in the wild, I'm unorthodox. Instead of having all of this inbound stuff, I took agents and trained them singularly on using AI for outbound conquesting conversations. So they can find conversations, understand the context of the conversation, and respond with the appropriate education that helps the conversation move ahead.
Right.
So now what I'm doing is I'm working with agents to clean up some of the conversations that are just like trolls or noise. So I literally have agents going out into the internet, cleaning up noise using AI. And there's an example of, I gave the agent the AI and showed them how to find the conversations that were cluttered and help clarify for the community what was being said.
Right.
And it's been hugely successful.
Right, because you were solving a problem, right? You had figured out what the problem was that you were trying to solve, and you're solving it from the perspective of both sides. And we think we need to do more of that.
And you know what problem I wasn't trying to solve? I wasn't trying to get rid of agents using magic theory.
Right. You wanted them to use it appropriately. If you're going to use it, let's use it. Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about today? I've talked about a lot of stuff.
The only thing I would add is when we think about customer contact centers and things, I think we have to think about the experience that we have. Even when we think about the use of agentic AI and those things, the experience that these customers are having is going to impact, the employees are having are going to impact customers. And I think we don't talk about it enough. I'm like, it's obvious. If I am not feeling valued, I'm not going to value a customer, because it takes too much deep acting, is what we call it, too much deep acting for me every time somebody calls to forget that I am not being valued, I'm not being seen, I don't have the resources to do my work, right? I'm creating nothing out of something out of nothing, I should say. And I think we often don't see people in contact centers. We call them all the time. We interact with them all the time, but we don't see them. They're these temporary entities that either piss us off or solve our problem, but we don't see them. And do you know what it is to not be seen by both your employer and the customers you serve? And so that's one of the reasons why when I have talks about the employee experience and its direct impact on the customer experience, it's the idea that when you design your system and your center, you can let these people be seen. You can do that. You can make sure they have what they need. Even the application of tools, emerging technologies to help them, is them being seen. But when you just give them a new system and say use it because it's cool and it sounds good, you're not seeing them. You're seeing the tool. And they are also a tool to you. And so if there's any message that I want to spread, is most people just want to be seen and valued at their job.
When I do speeches and I teach one of the core elements of successful CX, and you just described it differently, is contributing to a person's sense of self-worth.
Yes.
On seeing the agents, I'll just share with you. I've been working on a little documentary for 3 years called Empathy Echoes, which is the lives of the frontline agents. And I've gone around the world and filmed the agents and their stories. And I was going to try to get it out a year ago. And then last year I tried to get it out, and it just, these productions take longer than you think.
Right.
But
it'll come out when it's ready. It'll come out when it's ready.
Guess what?
It's coming out.
No, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I got the 1 hour rough cut last night.
Yeah.
So I am just about, it's downloading, but it is, I'll share it with you as it drops, because it's all the things that we talked about, the human element. I appreciate you coming to share your voice with me at the event today. And I always value the unique perspectives and things that people bring. Is there anything you'd like to share with the world? You can say it to this camera. Maybe we'll cut it up into some short form content that you can repost. But if you have something you want to say to the world, please share your voice.
Yes, the one thing I would say is that the employee experience is a hidden product that most organizations have. It's the other thing you sell. And when somebody applies for that job at your organization, you're selling that product to them.
Okay.
Your employees are also your customers. Sometimes they're your best customers. Right. Always remember that when you design work.
I am not mansplaining, just so we're clear. You are so more right than almost anybody ever thinks about. And I will give you an example for the audience, just as a proof point to how powerful what you said is. I worked for a national food chain. And this was like, I've been in this business for like 35 years. So this is like 20 years ago. Email was just, people were interested. They were starting to understand the power of email and loyalty.
Right.
I made one decision that cost probably, for the whole year, maybe it cost like less than $10. And I increased our sales by 3%, and I grew our email, our loyalty list, by over 10,000 subscribers a month. And you know how I did it? I asked for permission to join the email list on job applications. Because what I knew is they were within a 5-mile radius. And because they wanted to work with us, even if they didn't get the job at that time, they knew that there was a potential they might, but they went there because they liked our food instead of the competitors.
Exactly.
And as long as we were gracious about, hey, not this time, but we got your thing on file of some more openings, and it drove revenue, because your employees, there's a reason they tried to work with you in the first place.
Yeah.
People miss that. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for being part of this journey with us. We hope these conversations challenge your thinking and inspire you to explore new paths. There's so much more to discover. Keep listening, dive into more episodes, and let's continue this adventure together.